What's up, everyone? Welcome to a new week of Q&A. I don't think that my guest really needs much introduction. His name is Rabea Massaad. You probably know him from all of his Neural DSP videos on his YouTube channel. I don't think there's really much. I mean, like, pretty much everybody here knows who you are. So welcome to the channel, Rabea.
Hey man, how's it going? How's everyone doing?
Pretty awesome, pretty awesome. So, just in case anybody doesn't know who you are in the chat, why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown of what you do and who you are?
Okay, my name's Rabea, and I live in Brighton, in England. I'm a musician, playing a couple of bands, one called Toska, and one called Frog Leap, and one called Dorje. And I make YouTube videos. I make gear demos and music and just generally try to, get by doing that stuff and have a lot of fun doing it with my friends and people that I've met doing it all for the last few years, I guess. And yeah, I guess that's what I do, I think.
It's sort of surreal when you put it that way. It's like I make music for a living and I make YouTube videos and I do all this stuff. Like, it sounds like you have a pretty good network of friends that you work with too, right?
Yeah, I feel really lucky to have kind of been able to work with a lot of my friends, from the start until now, like Dan from, Neural DSP, like he's a very, very close friend that I've known for years, and Max as well from Neural DSP. Like, and I was just saying how when I've met Doug, I've known him for many years, and it's just having friends there, but also just, throughout the time I've been doing it now, everybody that I've kind of met through it has just become a friend that I like to spend time with. Go up to the Andertons guys, just hang out with them, like, and it's so much fun. It's not, it's not work. It's getting to hang out with your friends, which I really enjoy. I think that's just a very lucky place to be, a very privileged place to be, I suppose. So I appreciate it.
Right. Well, it's interesting that you say that luck and privilege, but there's also a measure of hard work, because you, like, as a content creator, I know how trying that schedule can be and how much work goes into the production of it, into the setup, the teardown, the scripting and all that. So there's like, luck does play a factor into it, but also like your work ethic is probably ridiculous, because you have, like, you just had Grinding Gears Volume 3 drop. We were talking a bit about this before the stream. Grinding Gears Volume 3, you have a guitar program that just dropped on Musicism. Gosh, what else? There's some other stuff too.
Yeah, no, like the guitars have actually started arriving in stores now. Yeah, like I've just been cracking on, like, obviously with YouTube, trying to keep that regular uploads like twice a week as best that I can. And then, with everything that's been going on last year, in the world, and also with, personally and stuff, like a few things with the family. So it's quite a big distraction. So there's been a lot of stuff that's been happening outside of YouTube as well that's been keeping me busy. So it's like for everybody though, of course. But yeah, it's good to be in the new year. And I really wanted to put that record out at the end of last year. I was desperate to do it because I just wanted it to be something I could say I did in 2020 that, like, I could be sort of proud of, if that makes sense, because we didn't get to tour, or we didn't get to, like, do anything like that. So it was nice to be able to do that. And yeah.
Nice. Well, tell me about Grinding Gears Volume 3. That's like a compilation of like several of YouTube video demo tracks that you did, as well as some other tracks as well, right?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, it started a few years ago at NAMM, where a guy came up to me and he was kind of like a bit not aggressive, but he was like a bit like frustrated at me, like, why do you put these songs that you like write for these demos on streaming platforms? Like, why are you not doing that? I was like, I don't know. They're just like throwaway 1.5-minute tracks. They're just for the purpose of showing off the gear. That's about it. Yeah, well, I want to listen to it on my way to work or when I'm at the gym. I need to put them on. It's like, you got to do it, man. When you get home, when you get back to England, I want to see them on, Spotify. So I just compiled what I had. There's about 12 on the first, or 11 on the first one. And I uploaded them, and then the feedback was just, people enjoyed, I think, the bite-sized chunks. They're like little miniature songs, I suppose. And I'd never really considered that to be something people would enjoy, but they did. So I made this after I'd compiled another 10 or 12 I did volume 2, and now we're on volume 3. And yeah, and sometimes I add tracks that I've just had lying around that go on there as well. Like the one that's on the latest one, which is called Grinding Gears, was, I called it that because I used a rev generator on one side, you know, some Marshall on the other, and like a bunch of different guitars. So it's just everything, you know, it literally grinding gears to get different bits of gear together to get the tones. And yeah, it's really fun to do. I don't know if I'll do another one. I'd like to do something that is songs that are longer than 1.5 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, you know, like an actual solo record type thing. I would love to do that, but we'll see. Right. But it's great. Thank you to everybody that's listened to it. Or by the way, I can't see any of the chat or the comments or anything like that, so I don't know what you're saying, but thank you to everyone that's listened to it and checked it out. And also Neural DSP for, like, I think the first 6 tracks are all Neural DSP tones and bass tones. In fact, the whole record is all bass tones from Neural DSP. Mm-hmm. And then the first 6 songs are all Neural DSP plugins as well. So kind of cool.
Right. Yeah, the track Hotel Cali Fortin is it's pretty on the nose.
I was so happy when I thought of that. I was so like, yes. I think Dan even texted me like, "You're so stupid." I enjoy my stupidity.
Yeah. Well, you gotta have fun in the business you're doing, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's not even that. It is the Cali Fort in Cali suite. So I was like, it just has to be done.
I don't know of anybody else who used the joke. So I mean, like, there it is.
I did enjoy seeing when the Archetype Corey Wong plugin came out, how many people were like trying to use Wong in the name. Like, I think mine was called "Don't Get Me Wong," and then someone did something like "Wong Turn" or like "You got it Wong" or so. There's all sorts of stuff cracking me up. It was good.
I think I have a preset called all the Wong notes.
That's great.
So tell me a bit about how you started out with your relationship with Neural DSP, because you've been doing content for Neural for quite some time. Like I was researching your videos when I started working with them. Like, okay, cool. What do I need to do? What do people like?
Oh wow, yeah, fair play. I was saying before, I met Doug back when he was on the Dark Glass booth back in 2014 NAMM, like, and sort of became friends that way through being fans of Carnival and Dirty Bass Tones. And then Dave, bass player for Toska, started playing for Dark Glass, and then we became friends with Doug, and everyone sort of started hanging out. And then Dan and Max started working with Neural, and everyone just became friends that way. And so I think it was when Neural started up, obviously knowing people in the company, it was just like, you know, and already been doing stuff on YouTube, making the videos and doing stuff like that. It was like, if you want any help, I'm more than happy to, you know, make some videos and check it out, and just like, you know, just be, you know, help out because I'm a friend and I can. So that was like how it started, I suppose.
That's cool. So you had your YouTube channel before working with Neural. How did that begin? Was that just sort of an experiment to go into just making some music and content online, or was that like a part of a strategy that you had in mind for music?
No, it wasn't. It definitely was it was Rob Chapman basically told me to start a YouTube channel. I met Rob years and years ago, like 2011 maybe, and yeah, I'd already seen him a couple of times on YouTube, and I was doing the band thing. I was at college at the time with the band, and I would have just gone about trying to get a career in music by just gigging as much as possible, maybe try and meet some people through the session circuit if I could, do some teaching and just go about it that way. But when I met Rob, he was like, well, this is a really cool way that you can also do music for a living. Like, it's a newish thing. So like, I'm doing it, it works. You should try it. You know, you seem like a nice guy. You could sit on camera if you don't feel uncomfortable doing that. And I must admit, it's taken quite a long time to be able to sit, you know, and look at this camera like it's a bunch of people in the room. Like,
right.
That's taken a long time to get there. But yeah, it was him that sort of gave me all the advice and told me to start doing it. So you know, that's why I started the YouTube channel. And I think for a long time, I kind of just did it casually. It was just running alongside stuff. I didn't really realize it was going to turn into more of a, when brands started being like, Boss, I think was one of the first ones, like, hey, we got the new Terra Echo, like, you want to check it out? Like, we'll just send you one, see what you think. I was like, that's the coolest thing in the world. Like, I'll absolutely do that and just jam on it on YouTube. And I think for me, that's what I've always loved about doing YouTube videos, whether it be demos, whatever else it is. It's the fact that I'm playing and I'm jamming and, like, whatever the product is, like, I'll find something in it that I really like and enjoy. Like, everything that I demo on my channel, I find something and I just start jamming away, and I'm lost. And my video editor, like John, he often has to cut a lot of the playing out of the video because I'm just there, just like, yeah, this is sick, whatever's going on, So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And then naturally, when Neural was doing plugins and stuff, I suppose my first introduction to plugin style instruments was like using drum software, like Superior Drummer mainly and stuff. I had no idea that guitar plugins were like becoming a thing. And then obviously when the Dark Glass one came out first, I think it was the first one that came out.
Yes. Yeah, it was Dark Glass and then the Fortin Nameless after that.
Yeah, and the Dark Glass, I loved it. I was really amazed by that. And then when the Nameless came out, yeah, I think naturally I thought I'd just check it out anyway. And after you get curious and start tweaking with things and dialing in stuff, before you know it, you've forgotten you playing with the plugin. And I was just loving it. Yeah. And then we were talking about that NAMM thing where they had the real amp and then the thing, and I think after that I was pretty convinced, like, these guys absolutely know what they're doing.
Yes. Yeah. I had just moved down to LA to do some like audio work, and I was doing a test mix for somebody. Like, at that point, I'm living in like a 14 by 20 practice room. Like, I'm sleeping on the floor and doing the typical LA thing, and I have like no money because I'm just scraping whatever jobs I can do. I was doing a test mix for a friend's band, and they were like, "Oh, cool! Have you checked out this Fortin Nameless plugin that just dropped?" And I was like, "I haven't. I want to check it out, but I haven't really had the chance." So I downloaded the trial to try that on the mix to see if it sounded good, and they would reimburse me for it if I ended up buying it. I didn't get the mix, but I ended up buying it like 10 minutes after I downloaded the trial, just because it was so good. Like, yeah. I had no money, but I'm like, this I can afford.
Yeah, I think, yeah, like I say, I did that in the face of the Nameless song for it, and then I think at that point I was like, it's in a mix as well. Like, you never know.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter even if it is. It just sounds great, and I think that was the thing. I was just sat there going, "Oh, that works. I'm into it."
Yes.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So YouTube is would you consider YouTube to be your full-time gig at the time?
I guess, yeah, in a way, like, collectively with a couple of other things, like I'm on the R&D team for Victory Amps. So I get to develop all the amp range with Martin Kidd and stuff like that, and the team at Victory, which is sick. And obviously I do the YouTube videos and do reviews and stuff like that. And well, I guess, like, with having music out on streaming platforms and stuff, and then the signature model guitars and the bare knuckle stuff. So there's just a lot of little income streams that I've, I guess, as well, been advised over the years by people to just try and set up as many of those as you can. Not to be like, give me all the money in the world, but just because they're all small things that accumulate, being able to live, having enough to be able to pay rent and do everything else, so.
Sure.
So that yeah, collectively, it's all based around, YouTube is the kind of driving force of, I guess, everything that I do now, because I've met everybody I know through it, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, it's smart financial sense to be sure that you have several revenue streams, especially when you're doing content and music where it's not a for sure income, to make sure that you have multiple revenue streams. Like, you just dropped the Musicism course, which I'm personally enjoying. I've been messing around with that recently.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, if you want, we can talk about that as well, because I find it's a really interesting approach and kind of background to your specific style, which I'm sure people are curious about in the comment section, because people want to know how you achieve the tones you get and how like you compose the riffs that you do. So, yeah, go ahead and give us an advertisement for your Musicism course.
Yeah, no, I mean, to be honest, the opportunity to do it with Ben as well, particularly because he's the drummer in Toska, was like really the thing to come together again and work with him, because it's been years since we did anything. And also, it just came up in conversation, like, you know, why have you never really done anything like that before? And I was like, well, because I don't have any theory. You know, I'm not a theory guy. Like, I understand bits and bobs, and I understand, I think, some of the fundamental things that have helped me along the way, but it's definitely not. I definitely wouldn't call it an advanced theory and theoretical understanding of music. So I just got put off like deep diving into tuition in any capacity because of that. You know, I've always been kind of reluctant, or at least not very confident, I'd say. So when the question came up about, like, you know, well, what about if it didn't have to be about all that kind of stuff? And, you know, if I was just able to explain it how I feel it makes sense to me. And so, yeah, so that's kind of what it is. It's there's not loads of theory in there, but it is kind of just different perspectives on the sound. You know, like, we'll look at modes, for example, and I'm talking about them in the way they sound and the mood and the theme that it gives. If I'm trying to write a frantic sounding riff, you could look at the modes that make it sound, you know, the notes in there that make it sound frantic, and which modes do they apply to, or whatever. It's that kind of thing. It's more based on like getting themes and trying to use your imagination to come up with parts, and there is technique and stuff in there, but I don't know if I explained that well at all, but yeah, people seem to be enjoying it. It's a bit different, and you get to learn some riffs, so if nothing else.
Yeah. No, it's awesome to get a fresh perspective, you know, especially from somebody who, you know, writes riffs, it seems like constantly. You know, you have a very, like, you have a sound, you know, you have a voice, you have a personality within your music, which is really awesome to listen to, because like you could play a song of yours and I would be able to pick it out because I know the tones and I know the specific kind of like personality, I guess, that you put into your music. So like getting that perspective from you directly is to me invaluable, regardless of the you know, the amount of music theory or not, you know.
Yeah. Oh, well, I appreciate that, and that's good to know, you know, because it was nice being able to reference songs or riffs that had been written in the past. Like, there are definitely points throughout the course where I touch on like a Toska riff or what I was feeling or trying to create in terms of mood in that part of the song, for example, whether it be a rhythmic thing or a melodic thing. And I think I quite enjoyed that process, because it's like, here's an idea or a concept, and here's an example of music, you know, which is the idea, I think.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a really solid course. If anybody's looking into it, I would recommend it personally.
Thanks.
And this is I'm taking no money from Rabea to do this. This is just my own personal recommendation. Just as a guitar player. That's
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, I'm sure people have been asking in the chat so far, what are your thoughts on the Quad Cortex?
Well, no, it's not. I was going to say it's terrible. I mean, we talked about it real briefly before we started the stream. My experience with modelers is super limited, and I guess we'd be calling it a modeler, you know, to an extent. But firstly, it was a Kemper, which isn't really a modeler as such, and then Helix is the only other thing, aside from plugins, you know, on computer, but, you know, hardware, like, you know, thing. Outside of the world of pedal boards and stuff, you know, the Helix was the thing, but again, very specifically used. You know, I had to use it with the Variax. We used specific IRs that worked for the mix of the band live, so it really wasn't about modeling and building all these tones with all the benefits and bells and whistles of a Helix. You know, it's very specific need. So really, my experience with modelers has been quite limited. And in the past, I tried like the Axe FX 2, I think it was, and I struggled to just get going and just feel and inspired and riffing out and all that kind of stuff. So I've always just done amplifiers, load boxes, and that's just how I do it. So then getting to this, I was saying at first, like, turned it on, and before the factory presets were loaded into it, I was saying, it's the clean DI thing when you plug in, and I think my perspective quickly shifted, and like, I really do have to model the sound in my head, and that's a process, and it takes time, and you're doing a lot of tweaking. And I think I was just naive to the detail and level of how far you have to go to get the sound that you really want from a modeler. And the cool thing is that, having used it for a little while, I feel like I really know my way around it now. So when I want to just try and find like an 80s hair metal tone, like a Nuno kind of vibe, I could just jump in and do that. And I've made some stuff. And so the presets that are on it now that are coming out on the factory presets, there's one in particular that is, I think it's called Clear Lead. And I'm well chuffed with it because it's like, I made it like 2 weeks ago, and I was sat there going, I just want to play along to some extreme. So I need to just, and I can't, it's too much effort to turn everything on. So I just like turned around and started dialing in on the quad Cortex, and like just felt, yeah. And then I think I realized then just how useful it is, and how, and the fit, I suppose I'm not mentioning the things that are obvious, like the sound is really good and the feel is really good. Those are the things.
I think you're touching on a note that's really important, though, because somebody asked on the YouTube page that, like, how is the quad Cortex going to be able to change your workflow when it comes to creativity?
Oh man, that's such a good question, and I can answer that really quick because so one of the first things I did was I wanted to test out capture. So I was like, well, obviously it captures, and I want to test it out because my only experience with that was Kemper. And it was hit or miss, being truthful. It's really good, but it was hit or miss. So anyway, plugged it in, started messing around, got some tones, and then I did the Aggie Bass track, and the workflow bit that really clicked was like, usually you don't expect to write and do a full track in a day. You might get a bit of it and then come away and come back. And I might have in that time changed some settings or done something else and completely messed up, because I don't collect DIs and reamp. I just can't be bothered with all that.
Right.
If I'm in the mode to write, I'll track and write, and that's what's recorded. You don't, there's no, maybe that's silly, but that's just how I work. So I came back to Aggie Bass the next day, and I just booted up the quad Cortex and loaded up the captures that I'd done, and I was like, it's just the same, like it is with the plugins and stuff like that. And that workflow bit is what really clicked for me. And I went, yeah, this is just damn useful. Like, I could just do this anywhere now. And it's the same. And again, we haven't said, like, the feel of the capture is the same. Like, when you get them, whoever's watching this, when you get it and you capture your amp, you'll know what I mean. Like, I sat there and I'm doing it and I'm going, this is just, you just can't tell. So. Yep. It's really good. And also, like, I think, I saw, there's a lot of people that are, obviously skeptical about these kind of things, because, there's so much hype around a product like this, like, but, and maybe, and like I say, I might be slightly biased because my friends, and I've got a lot invested in, in my friends and what they do, and I want them to succeed and all that kind of stuff. But also, I know what I like, and as a player, and as a creator and someone likes to write and has a workflow and a process, and it's really good.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think we touched on it beforehand, like the user interface, everything about how it's set up is just designed to get you in that creative mode as quickly as possible. Because I can't, like, I'm sure you've experienced it where it's like you got an idea, you got like a feeling, you got like that motivation, that like inspiration, and then you start like, all right, got to set everything up real quick, got to set everything up, and then suddenly it's just like you get everything set up and it's like, okay, yeah. I'm done.
I know exactly what you mean. Been there before. And yeah, like I say, for that reason, just booting it up and cracking on, and also the enjoyment of, again, with any tone that you have, you might want to just keep that tone, but change maybe the reverbs and the delays or any of the it's like, it's obviously, it's just enjoyable being able to duplicate and then add a different instance of this, that, or the other, or create a different snapshot, change some settings in there, you know, in the scene mode, and like change the settings. I made a couple of presets where in the scenes I'd change parameters of the pedals and amps and EQ the scene. So out of one preset, there are so many that I used all 8 scenes on the preset that I could, you know, have the gain gunned on one of the pedals on one patch and then have loads of chorus on another and stuff. So
yeah.
And again, in a recording thing, that's just sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's going to be one of the advantages of having the Cortex app, so you can connect to everybody else's profiles and download their presets, which I think I'm like actually super excited because I've been following some of the people who have Quad Cortex have been uploading their presets, and I have some that I want to try out just in the background right now.
Oh man, it's so cool. That's the, I think above all else, you know, because it is great to use and it sounds great and feels great and all that stuff. But above all else, that is sick. Like me and Nolly have been just chucking each other different presets. We've been messing around with captures and presets, and like, you know, I was having a thing with the SLO. I was trying to get a good capture of the Soldano SLO, specific sound. And I was like, do you know anything about this amp? To Nolly, like, have you got any experience with them? He's like, it's similar to a 50-on-50, of course. Try this setting and that setting. So I like did a quick capture of it, and I was like, I just get my phone out and go, Nolly, share, text him, hey man, you should have it now. And then he's like, cool, yeah, one sec. Yeah, that's the right sound. Yeah. But you might want to just boost presence. And you're going, this is all happening in real time.
My God.
Yeah, it's nuts. It really is. So.
That's one thing that I'm really looking forward to. Like, I can't wait to see what this does to revolutionize like the studio experience, just the ability to just dial in tones that you need when you need them, be able to save them, be able to grab anything from anybody else. Like, just from even my own limited experience with the Quad Cortex thus far, it's like it just works. Like when I need it, I just listen to it, and it just I can find the tones so easily. Even though there are a ton of options to go through, I feel like the way that they set it up makes it really easy to go through many different tones, decide what you want, and then go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I'm really looking forward to testing with it is when we're allowed to like go out again, is that thing where you're in the studio and you get the tone and you're like, this is incredible. And like, that was the beauty of when the Kemper dropped, was that you could go in and you could capture that sound. You profile that sound.
Yeah.
And bring it home, right? And I tried that a couple of times, and that's why I say it was hit or miss. Sometimes I was like, yeah, I remember it having that thing, and I'm feeling it, and it reminds me of the studio session I did. And then other times, like, that doesn't sound anything like how I remember it did in the studio, or it's not responding the same way, whatever, for whatever reason. And this isn't me hating on Kemper. I'm just being perfectly honest with my user experience.
Sure.
And that's what I'm looking forward to testing with Quad Cortex, of course, because when we can get in a studio and in those moments, because I will be taking it with me, you know, it's that small, I'll just chuck it in my backpack. I just plan on it going everywhere with me. I'll be trying to do that, and I'm going to be super critical when I get home to hear if it's going to give me that same. Obviously, we're in a different room, different monitors, but ultimately the fundamentals should still be there, and I want to make sure that it delivers in that department, because that's a huge game changer if that's the case. If you're in the studio and if we'd have had the opportunity to have something like this when we recorded Fire by the Silos, the Toska album, and I could recall some of the tones and have it sound like they did, I'd be so happy. If we could just get the sound exactly as it was in like Abba Mason, like the clean guitar part, load it up in Quad Cortex, it goes, yeah, there you go. I would love that. So next time, we'll see.
Yeah, I think there's like set lists that I'm actually like, because what you're talking about is going to be really great using the set list feature. So that way you have like a folder just full of the tones that you dialed in for this album or for this gig or this particular show or something like that. You'll be able to recall them super easy. But that's awesome. So you did kind of touch on something that I'm curious about. Like, so obviously we're in a spot where there's like not a lot of touring going on, still a lot of content being created, which is, I think, a lot of people's just answer to current world situation. But what would you say is your game plan for your music as far as like touring, getting your band out, and what's like the future for your YouTube channel look like?
Big questions. Yeah, like last year, of course, we don't need to go over it all the time because obviously it's been the same for everyone, but massive year of change and all the rest of it. So Toska has very much just been on hiatus, for a bunch of reasons for each band member. So it was just easier not to have expectations of, writing a record whilst we've in lockdown, like everyone did. All musicians and the creators in the world, all creators were like, oh, we can be at home and just create. But what everyone thought was the world needs to be running to feel creative and inspiration, like not for everybody, but for a lot of people, myself included. It just dropped off. And so I didn't have any inspiration for a bit. But going forward, I think Toska, I'm not sure how intensely busy it's going to get this year for Toska. It just depends. I'm not sure at this stage because it's still very much everything's locked down in the UK and everyone's just kind of cracking on with their own lives and work. What I would really like to do personally in my own time is maybe invest some time in creating some solo material that's like that isn't, like I said before, the grinding gears minute and a half tracks like an actual solo record. But to be perfectly honest, in the world of like lead guitar and stuff, because I guess, Toska's instrumental music, there's no lead. It's all just riffs and songs. And that's, whereas I'm talking about going down the more kind of, your Pliny, your intervals, that, try and attempt to do that kind of record. I don't know if I'd be able to do it, but I'd love to give it a go. So I'd like to start attempting to write that kind of stuff. And in terms of the future of the YouTube channel, personally, I feel like I'll probably do less demos. I feel like, not because I don't enjoy it anymore or whatever, but I think if that's all I'm doing, I start to feel like I'd play the same thing all the time, or like everyone's heard the same thing, or everyone's bored of this, that, and the other. And also, like, there's no lie that people seem to be getting less, what's the word? People seem to be less interested in sort of YouTube demonstration for stuff. Like people become more cynical. Everyone thinks you're lying about if something's good or whatever.
Right.
And there's no way of controlling what people think, of course. So you can't worry about it. And all I'd say is this for me, like I said before, I just get into it. I'll find something within the gear that I like and I just jam it out. I'm not just going to start slagging off a piece of gear. Like, it's not fair, but equally, I wouldn't accept to do a video of a piece of gear if I thought it was going to be bad. Like, I'd just stay away. I'd rather stay away.
Right.
I'd just prefer to check out pedals or gear from brands that I know is good. If Walrus get in touch and go, hey, we've got a new pedal, 9 times out of 10, well, like 9.9 times out of 10, Walrus audio pedals are fantastic. So it's going to be fun. And I'm sure I'll find something in it that I start vibing on. And there's the video. That's what people watch. So, but that being said, even if that's my intention, I feel like people are getting tired of it in general. So I think I'd just like to do more music, but it's how to split your working mind into like being a content creator, which I don't think I'm the best content creator. Like I make content, but I don't sit and brainstorm all these different ideas like people like Rob Scallon and stuff that are incredible at doing it,
Absolutely.
Amazes me how they do that. And I love it. But for me, I'm very much, if there's something to make a video on, I'll make a video.
Sure.
So this start of this year has been a little slow because I felt like I don't have anything to say,
Right.
I just want to play and I'm doing presets and working in the background. But like in terms of making a video to address the public, like if I ain't got anything to talk about, I feel like it's unnecessary and I don't want to do just random content down people's throats.
Right.
So I don't know, like the future of the channel, I would like it to become more about live band sessions like the one I released last night. And more original material. That might mean content slows down. It might, to allow time to just write and be a musician.
Right. No, I think you're kind of touching on something that's really important that people should understand or know that there is a really fine balance when it comes to doing the YouTube thing, as far as making stuff that people want to watch and also doing something that you want to do. Like there's a really fine balance between that, because there's, you know, stuff that I want to do that it's like, well, that's not exactly appropriate for the Neural channel. You know, it's like, that's not anything that the current audience would want to watch. So therefore it's not that it's not a good idea, but it's not a good idea for that channel. And I'm curious, what sort of content would you be like super excited? Like what would get you excited to put up on the YouTube channel?
There's a couple of things I was talking to Dan about the other night, actually. 'Cause me and Dan text each other a lot and talk about like just life and career and stuff and where we're at and all that kind of thing. And I was chatting to him the other day, and I think I'd love to do more of what we did last night, but for everybody that's not aware, because I'm, you know, obviously, I put out a live cover last night on my YouTube channel, and it's where me and Hannah, my girlfriend Hannah, and Chris Hardwick and Tom Nichols on bass, we got into the studio and we played together and we recorded a song, and it was really fun. It was a cover of Anastasia, and it's just nice to rearrange a tune and jam in the middle and just have loads of fun. So I'd like to do more of that, but the undertaking, it's just a very different workflow then. Obviously we're locked down right now, but let's say we weren't, you know, studio time, engineer, cameras, getting it all set up, getting the nice shots, getting it all engineered and mixed, and then record the tracks live, you know, so you got to do a handful of takes of each one to make sure you get the right one or whatever. So it's a big chunk of work and time and resource and people that obviously need, you know, you got to hire the studio and got to pay the people. So it's like, I'd love to do it, but it's the amount of time it would take up would greatly detract from other things. So I'd be well up for doing it. So it's working out how that would pan out. Would it be like one cover a week? Would it be one a fortnight or something? I have no idea, but it's what I'm brainstorming at the minute, and I'd love to do that. There are ways of making it possible, and I think if people want, which they seem to want to see more of that stuff from the comments and from messages and stuff, which I love and really appreciate, then we're going to look into it more. And then the other thing that I would like to try, I don't know if anyone that's watching this or if you might know of a guy back in the day, I'm talking like early 2000s, called Tenkan, Tenkan. This dude on, and I think it was on MySpace, it might have been MySpace or Reverb Nation, or some old school like radio platform. And he used to take the vocal stem of pop tracks like Fergie or Justin Timberlake or whatever it was, and he'd write like at the time it was like new metal was like quite popular, you know, like heavy, like groovy, riffy, but it was definitely down the kind of Deftones-y, new metal-y, Biscuit kind of vibes. And I just loved it, you know, because you got these, it was like London Bridge by Fergie, or like, yeah, I think that's the song. And he just wrote this filthy riffage underneath it. And it was sick. And I just thought how much fun it would be, because you can reimagine the song with the original vocal. I mean, it's kind of similar to what Leo does, like Frog Leap Studios, of course. He rearranges and does complete, you know, covers of metal tunes. So it's very similar to that. But I was saying to Dan, like, you can get vocal stems all over the internet for loads of cool tracks. And I'd just love to give it a crack, have a crack at it, you know, like, yeah, just write some fat, heavy, like maybe ambient-y kind of stuff and reimagine a track that people know really well. Like, I'm sure, you know, people do it all the time, of course, but Tenkan, the reason I brought him up was because he did it really, really well. And that was my reference point for that back in like 2007, something like that. So like old school. So I'd like to try that as well. That would be basically just more music, more creation, less... I'm going to turn the gain up to 12 and I'm just going to, you know, blend it with the crunch, and I'm going to play some, you know, like, I like doing it, but I way prefer making music. Yeah. I understand, man. Like there's something very satisfying about being able to just create music. Like I always love when we drop a new plugin, because then I get to just write whatever the hell I want. Like I get to just play around with the plugin. I get to see what feeding into this will make this sound, and like and just have fun with it. I mean,
There's obviously like the parts where I have to like kind of break down like, okay, this part does this part does that. But like the production and the demoing of like just creating music is the part that really, really makes me happy.
Yeah, man. Likewise, like gigging, touring, and music, recording and music, you know, just there's that side of it. Basically why I started doing it in the first place, as much as I love what I do. You know, and so it's a case of just finding a way of balancing all that. And that's quite, I don't know, it's taken a lot of mental time thinking about it this last sort of 6 months.
Yeah.
But I'm getting there with it. Hopefully I'll have some sort of idea soon, and we'll see how it goes. But what I have to say is that people out there in the world, you know, whoever's watching this and also that follow me or watch me on YouTube, like, if it's not for them, you know, their support is just incredible. So thank you. That's why I'll keep doing it to the best of my ability. So yeah, and it's exciting because if I can find something in it that's really satisfying for me, and it's satisfying for people that view it, then everyone's a winner, you know?
Yeah. That's awesome. So I think it's a good time to move into user questions.
All right.
So let's go ahead and start that off. This one's from Dan Davies. I'm sure you know him. He's asking about your QC factory presets.
Oh yeah.
Oh, something happened? Oh, I can't hear you. We're having some technical difficulties.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, something just, I think my computer went to sleep and it shut off the interface. That's really
Oh no.
Sorry. The QC presets. Yes. So I'd done like, I think there's about 8 of them. And for me, it was really important to try and, I think almost all of mine are stereo presets, because I think I'm just used to hearing stereo tones as it is from what I've been doing for so many years and at home now with the rig here. So I'd created like clean tones that were based off 2 different amps, blending them in the cabs, and also independent reverbs and stuff. So splitting across multiple lanes to you know, be more efficient with the CPU. In terms of a range of tones and what we've got, I've done a really dirty octave called Grimace Monger.
Mm-hmm.
Based off the kind of Prayer Monger main riff tone from that Toska album, but filthier and a bit more, I don't want to say hi-fi, but it's a little bit more bright. It's a bit more like aggressive and a bit more modern, and it's just really, really fun. Like you can lay it as a thickener underneath a fat riff, or you could just double track it and it just sounds ferocious. So that's one I'm really happy with. There's one called Major Strat Vibes, which is the one I mentioned. Each scene changes the parameters of the pedals. Yeah, and there's like ambient clean ones, baritone ambient patches, ones designed more for high output pickups, and there's a bunch of stuff. And I just really, the clear lead one's probably one of my favorites. That's the one that's the kind of Nuno 80s hair metal shred tone, because
Nice.
it feels so comfy. And you just like, I think it's like a Friedman model on one side and a JCM 800 on the other side with a wrap in front, and yeah, it rips. It's a lot of fun. Is that preset? So I think it's called Clear Lead. Yeah.
Awesome. I got one more from the Neural Peanut Gallery. Max is asking, ask him about his ability to hear intervals. He's an alien, or about any music from any Sonic game.
Oh my god. The intervals thing is I think he's referring to, there's an ear training website, or like if you play 2 notes on the piano or something, I can identify it really fast. It's just a weird thing. And there's a website called musictheory.net, and you can like challenge yourself, and it plays them either individually or in unison. So you set it to the fastest, so it just goes duh, like that. It'll play 2 notes, it just goes bang, like that, and you have to tell what it is and click. And I just sit there and I just like go into this weird zone, just da, 1, da, 2, da, 3, da, and just don't know. Yeah. And the other one is Sonic the Hedgehog. Is one of my all-time favorite video games when I was a kid. The kids on my street used to call me the Sonic King, because I I could complete. I think it was Sonic 3, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, and Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. The majority of them in under half an hour with all Chaos Emeralds. So
Jesus,
come at me, bro. Come at me, bro. So yeah, Sonic is and I know all the songs. Like if you just played me a second of a Sonic Zone, I'll tell you what it is. You know, it's weird. We play this game where you play like a split second of a song and you have to tell what it is. It's so much fun. If you've never done it, you got to try.
Yeah.
And we were at the house in LA when we were at the NAMM show last year. And we were all lying on the sofa. It was really late at night. And we were just playing tracks, and it's just, and you just know it's this weird muscle memory thing in your brain, and it surprises you. My sister guessed The Way I Am by Eminem. It starts with a bit of static on the record player. And I literally just played like a second of it, and she was like, The Way I Am, Eminem. And like, oh, how the hell did you work that out? But it works. It's this weird thing that happens in your brain, and you surprise yourself how you recognize stuff like that.
Yeah. That happened with me. Was it Destroy, Race, Improve? That like beginning track, just, that has that like little noise at the very beginning before it goes like ba 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 dill-it. Like that. It just like it's ingrained in my head that's like, oh, I know this song. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's a lot of fun to play, and it even translates well into a drinking game because, you know, obviously, if you get it right, you take a shot. If you get it wrong, you have to take two, that kind of thing. Not that I'm a massive alcoholic, because I'm not. You know, I don't really drink, but in times.
Yeah. Let's see. Looking at the user questions. Matthias Ganster says, blink once if you're being held hostage, and twice if the next neural plugin is Archetype Beta. It's not.
It's absolutely not. No.
No, but it's gonna be awesome. Just, I can't wait.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, who knows? You know, you just have to wait. I mean, you know, if you follow the neural socials, sooner. You know, soonest. Yeah. Soonest.
That's always my favorite.
Soonish. Yeah, at some point in the future.
All right. Aaron's asking, Bea, your mixes have been sounding better and better. What have been the biggest challenges and breakthroughs for you as far as mixing?
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate that because I have been trying really hard to get better. I've become a geek of mixing for the last maybe 4 years, I think, something like that. Really investing time in it, other than watching other people do it. I mean, actually trying to do it myself, unassisted at home. And you could probably hear that throughout the Guiding Gears records. They're like the first one. I didn't know anything about taking out low end to help the master bus compression on the first record. So the entire thing, it's just all the low end in everything. That's what the whole thing is, just like this. And I didn't know anything about it. So yeah, like that's one of the things I learned, I guess. You know, like carving, particularly for heavy modern music. Carving out different frequencies to help things cut through, and making sure you're managing your low end and your compression and all that stuff so it doesn't squish, things like that. And I'm no pro at all. I don't know, you know, other than some of my friends giving me pointers and things I've watched over the years. It's been me at home just working it out, and if it sounds good, I'm going with it. And yeah, like I can't deny that. You know, things like, and this isn't just because we're doing a neural stream, but like things like the Parallax bass plugin, I absolutely love it. It just works every single time I load it up. And before that, I was really bad with getting a bass tone that I was happy with, especially a heavy one. So, and the same with GGD drums, right? I use Superior, they're absolutely fantastic, but for some of the sounds that I wanted, I could achieve really quickly with things like GGD, and the same with things like Neural. Like, so that really, really speeds things up.
Right. Right.
So yeah, but yeah, I can't remember what I was saying.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. That's, I mean, like that's been.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
My mix.
Yeah.
Yes. My apologies. Yeah. Yeah. Just I think with the quality of the gear that's and the plugins and things that are available to us now, it's just making it a bit easier. And honestly, I think it's like anything. It's like practicing an instrument. The more you do it, the sort of quicker and better and more efficient, and more you understand it, and the better you get. So
right. There's I mean, there's definitely like scientific study that like the more you practice a specific skill, like the better you get at it. Like that is that idea between perfectionism and, you know, this is good enough for the moment, just put it out. Like I know that I've personally become a much better mix engineer, just because of the sheer volume of stuff that I've had to work on. Like I used to be that person where I would sit on a project, like my own project more often than not, just like, oh man, maybe I'll do like, 0.25 dB down, maybe, export it, go listen to it in my truck, and then come back in, make some more adjustments, and it would just be hours and hours spent on a single thing. Like I've actually the first time I tried reamping my DIs, I was sitting there with my Mesa Boogie dual rectifier, like just dialing in tones for hours and on hours. And then I like called it quits for the day, and I get up from my desk and I just hear vowels in my ears. It's that sound.
Yeah. No, it's yeah, you can just lose yourself for time doing that stuff. And I think that's another really important thing I learned is referencing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I understood the concept of like, make sure you play it in a car, all the rest of it. But actually, it's, much more than that. Is I'll listen to it on hi-fi, car, phone, laptop, when I'm in a car. I mean, I don't own a car, so when I'm in someone else's car, I'll be like, can I play this track? Do you mind? And hear on a car radio. It's just everywhere I possibly can. And I find that really, really helps a huge amount. Mm-hmm. Because I might be like, snares jumping out loads on here, and I'll check it on the headphones and it's not. And it's like, or it might be the other way around. And it might just be that it's really obvious as soon as you put it on something less forgiving.
Yes.
So,
yep.
So yeah, I love mixing. I think if you're into it, you've just got to invest hours and hours geeking out on stuff.
Yeah. It's the reason why I initially got into it. I was working on a solo album for myself, and I was really stupid. I ended up just like, I had just finished writing everything, and I was like, okay, now I got to record it. So I was like kind of learning the riffs as I was trying to record. I'd work like 7 hours a day. I would get home, I'd eat some food, I'd start recording. I'd stay up till like 5 a.m. like trying to record riffs in an environment that was not suitable to recording, because we had so much like radio frequency interference. Like there was just like buzzing and humming. Like I had to like be in this weird position like this to record anything that sounded even remotely clean. And so I ended up getting like tendonitis in my left wrist. So instead of like just kind of like putting it down and not doing anything, I started getting into mixing, so I'd be able to like more clearly communicate with the mix engineer once I got the album done, and I just fell in love with it. It was just so much fun.
Yeah, man, that's great. Yeah, I just watched a lot of people mixing. Like Dave would mainly be the guy that would be sat in front of Logic or whatever, just like going at something, and I'll just be listening, watching and observing and wondering why that does that and asking the odd question. So
nice. Let's see. Looking at the questions. Josh Castle is asking, how do you approach blending stereo rigs with DSP plugins? Do you tend to go for a specific sound on each side?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different ways to do that stereo thing with Neural DSP plugins, but generally it's the same principle, whether it's plugins or amps. Also, I know Josh Castle. How you doing, man? I was like, oh, when you read his name, I was like, oh, hey. Yeah, it's the same principle, whether it be plugins or amps. Just kind of, I took the process of one side or like one amp be a thicker sort of, you kind of on a frequency spectrum, like your low end, your low mid, your mid, and then the other one be like less of that and more of the other stuff, so that you get the full spectrum. So for example, with my Victory amps, gain 1 is a fatter, less articulate, less edgy, plinky gain. It's more warm and just thick. And then gain 2 is like your 5150, like jug, 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 really kind of snarly kind of gain. So I run one on gain 1 and 1 on gain 2. So you get the thickness and the articulation, giving you overall, hopefully, a thick articulate sound.
Nice.
So it's the same principle. And that's, again, with the neural presets on the QC, same idea. So you can solo them and have a listen and sort of, if you're interested. And then actually the cool thing with the QC is after you've done that, then you can throw an EQ on after the fact and affect both, which I really like.
Yep.
That's one thing I'd say. Anyone that's ordered a Quad Cortex that wants to check out my presets, I'll always, for most of them, I added a 9-band EQ after the fact so that you've got that final bit of EQ. So it might sound nice on my system the way I've got it and sent them off to Neural, but when you load them up, it might be like, So that post EQ, that very last bit of EQ is the one that I would say kind of tunes to your system more than anything else.
No, that's really good advice. Tuning the presets to your own listening environment. Like listening environments is, your personal listening environment is such a important aspect to this audio production, this music stuff. Like it's just, you have to be sure that what you're listening to is as like real to what you want it to be, right?
It's a sacred thing, you know, the personal listening space. But no, seriously though, like it's really important to say that, and that's one thing I find really funny in the world of which we work in, this industry with gear demos on YouTube or like X, Y, and Z, you know, just this industry is like, until you're sat with it, ultimately your opinion's the only one that you're going to listen to anyway, and until you're sat with it, that's going to be the final call, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, we can sit here and go, Quad Cortex is incredible, and then you'll go, okay, I'll check it out, and then when you sit and play it, then you're either going to be like, yeah, this is sick, or it's like, it's not for me. Right. That's all it always boils down to. So
yep, 100%. I got a question from Andy Kim. He's asking, he actually has a question for you and me, so we'll start with your question. He says, what advice do you have for an absolute beginner getting started with audio production?
There's so many things that you could say. I mean, I guess like the one that I think is a really useful little tip that I would kind of give to someone straight away is learn about like bus processing, if that makes sense. So like, you know, if you've recorded 2, 3, 4, however many mics on your guitar cab, you know, find the blend and then send them all to one and then affect that. And that's your kind of, and when I learned to start doing that, the bus processing stuff or whatever, or summing things to one channel, whatever, however you describe it, whatever terminology you want to use, it made such a huge difference to my mixing, and my sessions looked neater, and everything suddenly started to make sense. And then when you start looking at automation, you're automating the buses, you're not automating those individual things, and suddenly mixing just became this joyous, wonderful thing. And it's like with drums, you know, like I can send all my drums to one place for parallel compression, whereas I can send them somewhere else for like a room or, you know, whatever else.
Right.
And then those for that I think is a really useful tip.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll add on to that you shouldn't be afraid to just really practice the basics, even just simple organization, as Rabea said, like learning about like how to kind of dial in your session so that everything visually makes a lot of sense. Like I have a very distinct workflow. Like I have my drums, they're going to this bus. I have 2 sends here. Then the next is my bass buses, which have my top, my mid, my heavy tones. Then I have like my guitars, and I have like 3 different buses for different guitar tones that I use. Like it's all a very personal thing that ends up getting developed over time. However, like just even drawing all that back just to practice leveling your mix is really useful. Just being able to hear where everything is at, panning, all of those really, really basic things. Like if you don't have a good starting point, like a good level for your mix, then it's not worth anything. You're just going to be fighting yourself.
And that idea where like it's really easy when I remember how much I'd just be clipping the master when I first started trying to record stuff, like because everything's just too loud, or it all adds up to make such a loud sound ultimately, and like working out how to manage volume levels of everything for then throwing my stuff on the master and it all be processed in the way I want it to, because you know yeah, it made such a huge difference understanding that.
Yes. Yeah.
Or, like, what
Gain staging.
yeah, the chain reaction of something, you affect you change something here, it's going to affect how it reacts over there. It's that kind of stuff.
It is fun though. Like I'm gonna geek out a little bit, but like mixing to me is almost like putting together a puzzle. Like
Yeah,
and I just love like finding that right level or that right plugin or that right setting to kind of make everything just gel together and become like what it's supposed to be. It's very fun.
It does that as well, isn't it? Like you'll be there working away and you're like, it's getting there, I'm not, and then you'll be messing around and then you'll like turn something a little bit, and this actually does happen. Like anyone that mixes music, and you'll just like this, that, and the other, close it, and suddenly the whole mix just goes zoop, and you're like, okay, yeah, now sounding good. I'm into this. Like I love that feeling when mixing music.
Yeah. So his question for me that I'll address very quickly. He says, for Steve specifically, would you recommend URM Nail the Mix for to a beginner? Absolutely. That's where I got my start. I got the speed mixing program from them, and then subscribed to their Nail the Mix tier. There's actually two tiers. There's Nail the Mix, and then there's the URM Enhanced, which is like the top tier. But I would highly recommend it. Try it out, look at it, see the reviews. I can attest that it was very effective for me because it gave me a really good grasp of, again, like just the fundamentals to practice first, and then building on the complexity from there, because there's several things to be practiced in order. Like you can't go to parallel compression or like you can't start with those things. Like you have to start with the very, very basics, and they have a really good workflow for getting you built up from the ground up. So yes, I would recommend the URM.
That's wicked.
Yeah. Let's see. I think that was kind of the same question. I'm looking through the questions right now. Oh, interesting. This is a good question. Steve Bees is asking: is there a danger that creativity will take a nosedive because you're trying to be an engineer, mix mastering engineer, instead of concentrating on being an artist?
I totally know that. That's such a good question, because yeah, it does. That can happen. Some people, but I don't think it happens so quickly that it would just happen and you wouldn't know about it. Like that kind of transition's a long time. People are in bands or like working in studios, and then they start to realize that they prefer more being behind the scenes. They prefer more about like Nolly's a great example, like he was touring with Periphery doing it all, and then he decided, I just prefer mixing and working behind the scenes. I don't want to be out there touring, so it shifts for people. I know full well that for me, I still need to get out on stage and just hear a loud crowd and a loud amplifier and just everyone having a good time. That's just, I need to do that, and I don't know how long I think I'll need to do that for a long time. But yeah, we're in the studio and working and that kind of thing. I don't know. I definitely get into that producer headspace when I'm in the studio. So I definitely start to I don't know, sometimes it can be annoying for people, I'm sure, but I start to get involved in like that part or like that sound, or can we tweak that? Can we change that? Can and just getting involved, So, but I don't think I love it enough. I think you just know, don't you? I don't know. I know I don't love producing enough to compromise doing gigs for that, if that makes sense.
Sure.
At this stage.
No, that's a good answer. I think that it's sort of like being able to wear different hats at different moments in time. Like being the riff writer, then being the producer, then being the mix engineer, mastering, etc. Like those are very, very different things, especially like I can speak from my own experience. Like I don't typically do those things all at once. Like I write out all of my riffs, I compose the track, and then I start recording all of it. And then once when I'm recording it, then I'll start to have some of those production ideas like, oh, cool, like have like a sweep and then like, a boom here, or like maybe some electronic elements in the background. Like I'll get like my Fab Filter, Twin 2 or whatever. And then after that's all like said and done, and normally like it's a very like quick timeline. Like I normally have to get songs done in like 3 days sometimes. So like I have to make a decision, stick with it, and then move on. So it's very easy for me at times to just to be like, okay, well, I don't have the time to fuck around with this anymore. So it's time to just put on that mix hat and just go with it. Yeah.
I would say as well, like generally if the project is more, if it's just me and my own thing, I'll do that myself, so I'll, write, record, engineer, mix it, that kind of thing. But if it's something like more legit in that sense, like Toska, for example, I would get Mark Roberts in or someone to record and produce or like work with me or that for that reason, and then mix it and engineer and mix it so that I'm not, because I don't want to be thinking about that stuff when I'm in the studio. It's more about like hearing what needs to be added to the track, or like thinking about the tones that I want to get, or like the parts I'm trying to record. So yeah, I think you just know. Yeah, I think you just base it on what project it is and what really sort of resonates with you. If you like being the recordee or the recorder.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Let's see. Daniel Stubbs is asking, what technique did you find the hardest or longest to pick up in your earlier years of playing guitar? How did you overcome the difficulty?
Cool question. I would say alternate picking because I'm left-handed. So playing a right-handed, I had to really get the synchronicity between the two up to scratch, and also alternate picking. And I still struggle with it compared to other techniques and playing and stuff, but that definitely took the longest for the precision stuff, I would say. In the early years as well, it really used to kill me.
I think so I didn't take lessons when I first started playing guitar. I just grabbed tablets, or I just learned by ear, like Metallica or whatever was on the radio. And I didn't learn alternate picking until I was already like 8 years into my guitar playing. So that like I just kind of like just developed like this weird sloppy like sweep picking. And it just like I realized at one point I was working at a guitar shop at that point, and I was trying to learn a bluegrass piece, and I was just like, it just sounded not good, like because bluegrass is very choppy, it's like very very rhythmically solid music, and I was trying to learn a piece, and I'm like, oh, fuck it, I gotta learn this alternate picking. Yeah. So thankfully I had a bunch of teachers that I could go to and be like, hey, what's an exercise I could do? And it was just like then just me sitting at the counter behind the computer, just like do da 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 do da da da, like over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's I don't know, guitar's hard. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun as well.
So Epic Chicken has a good question. What would you recommend a new band do in trying to build an audience in today's situation?
Do you mean literally like how it is or has been for 2020, or do you mean like just? Are we talking pre or post? Like how are we going?
Post. So let's say somebody wants to build a band and an audience right now.
Oh right. Oh man. Well, I don't know. Like we're all we've never experienced anything like this before. But I guess if someone was going to ask me that, or if I was going to try and do a new project like that, I guess just have all the assets in place, like everything, like, the vibe, the direction of the band, the music, the recordings, the imagery, like I'd try and, if you're going to drop something in the time where everyone's more available to see it, then technically that means everyone else is too. So you're going to have to make sure it really stands out above the crowd. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense, so yeah, the recordings have to sound good. The songs got to be, like, I guess the music video, because it's video and audio based, isn't it? People aren't coming to see gigs now. So
Right.
everything they're going to consume of your content is more likely to be music and, well, audio and video, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to be streamed, it's going to be listened to, it's going to be watched on YouTube, so, or read about on Facebook or Twitter. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely not an expert, and I've had a lot of help from my friends over the years of all that kind of stuff. But I would say have all the assets in place and just make sure it's cohesive. And when it drops, got to keep that momentum there. You can't drop off, and it just you just have to persist.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really great advice. I would say look to Spirit Box for sort of. I mean, I think the Spirit Box is really kind of pioneering a new like playbook right now, considering that they dropped a bunch of stuff during the pandemic and they've just started kind of taking off. Like they did their own music video. The guitar player Mike Stringer learned how to edit just specifically so he could make their music video. I think all told, I think I saw somewhere that they spent $400 on the music video for Holy Roller. And like it's that sort of like that ability to persevere through hardships and just get shit done that needs to be done is what is necessary in a time like right now. Like being able to just, hey, we're faced with this difficulty. I'm going to find a way to get through it. And as Rabea said, that consistency, making sure that everything, like all your aesthetics are on point, that your music sounds good. Like Spirit Box has actually been doing a great job at like building their audience as well as and maintaining a relationship with their audience, doing live streams, uploading regular content on YouTube, and just sort of like building that rapport, which is what I feel sort of getting them the attention that they, rightly deserve right now. So that's sort of what I would say is like look to them as a business model to emulate.
Yeah, engaging with your audience and just going that extra bit further, I think, is they just naturally want to do that and they're passionate about it, so it's not contrived, and I think people recognize that.
Absolutely. Andy Kim has another good question. How has your approach to creativity or the creative process changed from when you were just starting out to now? Now that you're doing creative work regularly as a career, that was the end of the question. Do you have a different mindset for different mediums, e.g. between making music or making video with music?
Yeah, like I wouldn't describe myself as like a content creator in the same spectrum as people like, Rob Scallon, like I said earlier. So it's like someone like that who's just a genius with coming up with these great concepts and just making it happen, like Jared as well, people like that. I make a video if there's a need to make one. So I kind of don't feel like it's as much a creative process there. I think where I find it fun to do stuff like with video at home is like when I do things like the Don't Get Me Wrong song, and I'll just make a little edit, like just a fun little edit. I enjoy that. Or like when we go traveling, when we come to the NAMM show, I'll normally make a vlog, and I like to edit that vlog. Not last year, John did it last year, but the year before. I really enjoyed making this kind of like trying to go down the kind of Peter McKinnon route, like make these cool, like awesome vlogs that are really nicely shot and like geek out about it and have fun there. So that's creative to me. I don't know about all the settings on the camera as much as I know about the kind of shot I want to get because it's in my head, it's just a creative process. But that's just a rare thing. Like I definitely just lean more in the vein of music and music related creative processes. But yeah, did that answer the question? Yeah.
Generally speaking, yeah, that answered the question. I think this is a good question to wrap up on. Just want to be mindful of your time since we're probably getting to about dinner time on your end.
Pretty much. It's something smelling pretty good downstairs. I have no idea.
Awesome.
I wonder if Hannah's watching this. If she is, thank you for cooking.
So Andy Kim has one last question. He says, would you be able to offer some advice on how to approach networking if they have no connections within a field they want to get into, especially for a more introverted person? Hearing what went right or wrong throughout your career with regards to networking would be awesome.
So my experience with, I guess, networking came more from the kind of music, playing in bands and stuff like that. You know, even as much as when I met Rob, that was a networking opportunity, you could argue. You know, like he turned up, I recognized him from YouTube. Something in my head said, you know, you need to work with this guy. Like he's doing his thing. Like that could be cool, or whatever. But it came through the form of wanting to jam together. So it was like a jam thing. It was like a music-based thing. So, or at a gig, if I knew we wanted to get more gigs, and we were at the venue as the support band or whatever, and I kind of tried to pinpoint the promoter or like whoever was running the night and sort of introduce myself, sort of thank them for letting us on, you know, and please let us know if there's any other gigs or bills that we'd be suitable for, and just then trying to, and then after the gig, whilst they're still hanging around, you know, go over and just be like, do you want a beer? Let's have a chat, and actually not talk about, thank you for letting us play. Thank you for, like, do you have any more? Just don't talk about that, because that's their job. They're sick. So instead, just be like, really enjoyed playing tonight. Like, you know, do you do this a lot? Like, what's your vibe? And then go off on one about whatever else, you know, and actually network. It's people. It's like, you know, it's definitely not this like a different process that outside of just meeting people and getting to know somebody and having a relationship in that sense. Like, if I think about anybody that I've networked with, what I mean is I now know them as friends. I could text them or email them and ask for advice or work or whatever it is, you know. So that's how I see networking. It's more just meeting people and being a great, nice person, letting them, you know, being what's the word? Not afraid to show your value, you know, what you're good at, and like if you feel like you got something to offer, like let somebody know. Like, hey, I'm pretty good at mixing. Like, I'd like, you know, I really enjoy mixing. I've been doing it quite a while. I'd really like to get involved with your project. If you need someone to mix it, I'd love to have a listen. Send you a test mix. Yeah, you know, you're always the one having to reach out, I think, is the thing as well in networking. I feel like I like to extend my hand first. I think it's important to show goodwill like that in a good working relationship.
Yeah, no, that's really solid. I would say that's, yeah, being able to, I think people have this misconception about what networking is. And I think that you kind of boiled it down really well, that it's not about going up to somebody saying, hey, nice to meet you. What jobs can you offer me? It's about building a relationship. And that means just talking with them. Like before the stream, do you know what we were talking about? Video games. So it's about being friendly, being personable, getting to know the person, and then like I think this is an important thing, finding those pain points eventually throughout the conversation and finding those pain points and figuring out how you can alleviate those pain points. So if you're talking to somebody and then they're like, oh man, like I got this job that I got to do, it's a mix, and I have to prep the session, I got to do all this editing stuff. And then you're like, hey, well, you know what? Actually, I've been doing a bunch of editing recently. So if you want, I can take that off your hands, you know, and waiting for the opportunity rather than just trying to pounce on it. Yeah.
You know, you could mistake that for like being Mr. Nice Guy all the time or whatever you want to call that as, but actually you're doing exactly that. You're showing your worth by going, I can do that. If you need the help, I can do it, you know. And it's that way out. Like, you know, don't be you know, because it's quite easy to feel you know, I know people that would think that was, say, arrogant or too confident, like, well, I can do it, I'll do it for you, or however, but it's, you know, it's not. You just have to just be sure of what you can offer and yeah, recognize those opportunities. If someone, like you say, if someone's complaining about all the workload they've got or whatever it is, and there's crossover with your skill set, then just offer you. So that's networking. Yeah, it's a really good way of putting it. I think there's another good example of it.
Absolutely. So cool. Well, I want to make sure you get to dinner on time. So thank you, Rabea. Thank you, everyone in the chat, for asking some just outstanding questions today. I had a ton of fun, man.
Yeah, me too. I really appreciate it, your time as well, and thanks to Neural for setting us up and stuff. So, yeah, really fun to chat to you, dude.
Absolutely.
And, thank you to everybody that's watched and asked questions.
Same. Well, so we'll call that a day. And again, thank you all so much. And we will catch you in that next video.
Take it easy.